Okay, we're going to start 4.5 notes. We have one section left after this. So this one's going to talk about fractional exponents, but they're going to have negatives attached to them. Okay, so we just have to take a flashback to grade 9, talk about this important word, reciprocals, and if you remember in grade 9, it's simply a flip. Okay, so we talked about negative exponents in grade 9. When we have two numbers that when we multiply them, well, you know, when they're a product, and we get 1, they're considered reciprocals. So I've got an example here. If we take 4 and we multiply it by its reciprocal, which is 1/4, because remember, every whole number is over 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. We reduce that, we get 1. So we can say that 4 and 1/4 are reciprocals. Okay, I've got another example here, 2/3. The reciprocal of that would be 3/2. When we multiply them together, we get 6/6, which is 1, so they're reciprocals. So quick flashback, write the reciprocals of the following numbers. So the reciprocal of 4 would be 1/4. The reciprocal of -5 would be -1/5. So that's important to understand. We don't touch the negative, okay, to that number. We just flip it. 3/7 would be 7/3. 1/2 would be simply 2. You could write 2/1. That wouldn't be wrong. And this would be -5/2 because remember, we don't touch the negative. Okay, so that's an exponent law that we're going to talk about right now, that when we have bases that are the same, we can add the exponents. Okay, and the other law that we learned in grade 9 and we reviewed before we started this unit was that anything raised to the exponent 0 is 1. Okay, so now we're going to apply these laws when we talk about negative exponents, because if we have 5 to the -2 times 5 to the power of +2, if we added those exponents, -2 and 2 is 0, and we would get 1. Okay, sorry, this is my new puppy, and he is sad that I'm working today. Okay, so here we go. We're going to come down, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to do some examples, and that's going to clarify things for you. Okay, so first of all, though, we are going to evaluate each power. So this is, again, a review of grade 9. We're going to write the reciprocal of the base, which would be 1/3. And if you remember, that becomes a positive exponent. 1 squared is 1. 3 squared is 9. Okay, next one. 5 to the -3. 1/5 cubed. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 5 cubed is 125. Now this one's a little bit different. I always turn the base into a fraction. That's easier for me to understand. Now I've still got that negative exponent to deal with, so I'm going to write 10/3. I'm going to write the reciprocal. This becomes positive. 10 to the exponent 4 is 10,000. 3 to the power of 4 is 81. Here we go. Negative exponent. We're going to write the reciprocal of the base, 4/3. This becomes a cubed. We get 64. 3 cubed is 27. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the background. And here we've got some more bases that have exponents, so or negative exponents. So remember we talked a little bit about numerator, denominator. So if this has got a negative exponent in the denominator, we can move it to its opposite location, and we get 3 to the power of 4, which is 81, because the 1 on the bottom isn't going to make a difference. Okay, we bring this to the top, we get 10 to the power of 1, 10. Again, I'm going to use fractions because that makes more sense to me. I would write the reciprocal of that, which is 10/4. Now it's a positive exponent. I'm going to get 1,000 over 64. You would reduce that, okay, for sure. And then 7 raised to the exponent -1 would be 1/7 to the power of 1, which is still just simply 1/7. Okay, so what I'm going to ask is that you do some U-tries, and then tomorrow, of course, I'm going to have the solution key, or actually today, I'll have the solution key attached. Okay. Now we're going to go down here, and all I've asked you to do here is just write with a positive exponent. So we're not even worried about answering it. I just want it written in a positive manner. So we see that we have a negative here, so we're going to write 5/3 squared. You could solve that, but that's not necessary right now. Negative exponent. Write the reciprocal of the base, which would be 7/6 cubed. Over here, we're going to have 4/9 squared. Okay, so now if we are to evaluate each power now, so evaluate means we're going to find the answer. So here we're going to get 3/4 cubed. Okay, we say I have a negative exponent, so we're going to get 27/64. Here, 5/7 squared, 25/49. Here we're going to have 3 halves raised to the exponent power of positive 4. Okay, and so you can just use a calculator at any point too, okay? That's really not an issue for me at all. Calculators are important when it comes to this. Okay, and then you're going to do the you try here based on the examples that I've just done for you. Okay, now we're going to, this is exactly the same thing. We're going to jump down here to example number 3. We're going to try these negative fractional exponents. Okay, so here now we've got 27 raised to, now we've got a negative exponent, and it's a fraction. So we've got to remember that this is the exponent and this is the root. But the first thing we need to take care of is that negative. So we're going to write the reciprocal of the base, which would become 1 over 27. And now we have 2/3. Okay, so we've taken care of the negative. That's the first thing we always do. Exponent, root. So now we're going to write the cube root of 27, and then we are going to square that. So what's the cube root of 27? 3, and 3 squared is 9. Now I know I made that look fairly quick and easy, okay, but this is just our first foray into it. I'm going to do one more example, okay, and then we're going to come back to this and do this again tomorrow, so I don't want you to be stressed. First thing we take care of, negative exponent. 16 over, oh, and I think I've got a typo here. I would like to turn that into a 9 if you don't mind. Okay, we're going to turn that into a 9, and now that's raised to the exponent 3 halves because we've gotten rid of the negative exponent by writing the reciprocal or the flip of the base. So now we're going to write we're going to find the square root of 16 over 9, and then we're going to cube that answer. So what's the square root of 16? 4. Square root of 9 is 3. Then we're going to cube that. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay, so just go through and see what you can do. I'm going to post the answer key. My apologies that Hank and Duke are barking.